So yeah, it has changed, and you know, it's really interesting. There's a picture that I've just put up on my MySpace site actually, and it was taken in 2006 at Mass in Brixton, and it's sort of like a portrait of everybody involved with the scene at that point. Yeah. So, and there's literally about 20 people in the picture. That's it, and they were the originators of this era of the sound. I mean, not the era that harks back to LB, Oris J, you know, Z Bias. That's the early era that fed the sort of DMZ era, if you like. But it's amazing to think that was everybody involved with the sound at that particular moment, except perhaps for Sarah Soldier, who wasn't included in that photograph, who runs Temper and Forward. But that was the sum total of everyone in the scene, you know. Whereas now you think, God, it's 2.5 years later, absolute maximum. It's a global phenomenon. You know, there's producers in every corner of the world. There's parties in Istanbul, in Tokyo, in Greenland, in Brazil. It's crazy, you know. It's so exciting to see how, you know, the virus has spread. You know, it's just bouncing around the globe. It's fantastic. It's really, really good.
It's certainly spreading really steadily at the moment. Do you think it'll ever break through into the mainstream? What, at the point would you want it to?
It's kind of interesting. I think there's artists that definitely have mainstream crossover appeal. I think Scream's got that. I think Benga's got it. I think Rusko and Casper have got it. I think, you know, there's possibly several tunes that have already kind of touched not the actual mainstream, but you know, you heard Benga getting played by Joe Wiley, Benga and Koki's tune Night, you know, on daytime Radio 1, which was crazy. And I think a tune like that touched so many different scenes, really. What people, I think, are often very, very, you know, kind of critical of the, you know, the big bangers, if you like. People, you know, maybe the heads don't really get into the bangers so much. But I think, for me personally, I think about it in broader terms. I think if somebody listening to Joe Wiley has managed to hear Night on Joe Wiley, I would imagine anybody who'd kind of come across that within the context of her programme would either love it or hate it.
Yeah.
But if that was a gateway for them to think, oh my God, what the hell is that tune? That's amazing.
Yeah.
I've got to find out about this sound. If that's their first port of call, which often, especially if you're very young, you know, or you live in a very remote part of the world, whatever it may be, you need those kind of gateways. You need people to open those gateways for you. I'm not really certain that in terms of the ambitions of the artist, the way that I see it, is that this is kind of a separate issue, I guess. It's double-edged, because you think, yep, the gateways are amazing, but also I think what you see now more and more is that artists want to be the masters of their own destiny. They want to be in control, and they're looking at a 10-year career.
Yeah.
They're not looking at taking, you know, several £1,000s off a major record label, and then a record label banging the door down, where's my money?
Yeah.
Where's my hit single? The album's shit, we can't put it out, we need some chart hits, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I think those days are completely finished.
Right.
And I think artists are certainly within the dubstep scene, nobody has gone cap in hand to any one of the major labels, not even any of the larger independent labels. Everybody's running their own labels, their own nightclubs, and they are completely in control of the way that they manage their careers, and they're looking at a long game. But if you, and I don't think anyone's building tunes for, you know, nobody gives a toss about the top 40. However, if you do get a tune, like I say, like Night, that crosses over and that will open a doorway, you know, on Zane Lowe's show, on Joe Wiley's show, that a myriad of new people can come through, maybe Killers fans or Eminem fans, or, you know, people who've just touched the sound for the very first time. It will lead them down the pathway, and eventually they'll end up at DMZ or Forward in a relatively short space of time, because the information's there now. All you need to do is hop online, and you can, you know, you can take the steps online and find where the core of the scene is. But I don't have any problem with those things, because I think they're very natural as well. You know, when Benga and Koki sat down and wrote Night, they weren't thinking like, fucking hell, we've got to get a top 40 hit out of this. They just wrote a crazy little tune that had a wicked little hook in it that everybody was singing. You know, at DMZ everybody would sing it. But I don't think for a second they ever imagined it would end up on, you know, Radio 1 at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's crazy. So if these things have happened, they've happened organically, and they've happened because the nature of the sort of the weight of belief and feeling and passion that's behind this music, really, you know.
Excellent. You mentioned sort of online stuff there. The internet's now a massive part of the music industry.
Yeah.
With download culture and with people generally buying less, do you think that's having an impact on the scene generally?
I think what there is in dubstep still is a great deal of vinyl and dub plate fetishism.
Yeah, sure.
And I think if you talk to any one of the label owners, you know, be it people running Temper, running DMZ, or even the really young little labels like, you know, like Joker's label Capsize or whatever it may be, they're only on the second release, they will tell you that all of their vinyl is selling out as fast as they can press it, you know what I mean? Black Market have got orders for stuff that's coming in, and there's not even a single 12 that they can actually put on the racks because the pre-orders are so big. And I think because of the nature of the culture and that so many tunes actually exist just on dubplate, and there's very few that make a physical release, the lust for vinyl is enormous within this scene, and I don't think that's ever going to change. And you know, these records are, I mean, they're selling for crazy prices as well on eBay. You know, if you look at what a DMZ1 will fetch on eBay, I mean, it's just insane. Malo just sits and laughs at it, you know, he looks at it and laughs and thinks, God, this is crazy, you know. But I think to a degree there's still a tiny amount of music actually getting released, and the hunger for this music is so massive. And I think the producers are realistic, and the label owners are realistic in terms of what they're pressing. You know, they're pressing limited numbers and they're waiting for those to sell out before they release the next batch. But if you go, it's amazing. If you go to, you know, any of the sites like the big online sites like Boomcat, and you search Loafer, it'll be sold out, all the way down. You know, and they're gems. You know, people collect them and treasure these things. You know, and they want this thing, and they want to. They'll treasure it for 10 years probably. You know, they're hardcore record collectors. So yeah, there's a problem. There's always, you know, with the internet as it stands at the moment, there's always problems with people bootlegging. But I think also the interesting thing in terms of dubstep is the culture is very different. I think bootlegging has nearly crucified drum and bass, to be honest. It really has done some damage to drum and bass, mainly because so many of the big forums a few years ago were allowing kids to post MP3s, just, you know, like you could post them blatantly. On Dubstep Forum, they made a rule when they established the forum that anybody asking for MP3s or posting MP3s would be immediately banned. And there is within, you know, the dubstep community a real anti-piracy culture that's developed among the fans, and it's one of the things that I think is most important, really. I just think people understand that the producers have worked so hard on this music, and they own it, and they need to eat. And if they don't eat and they can't put a roof over their head in the next few years, you know, they'll fizzle out, and the whole scene will begin to collapse and implode, which is what is happening in many other scenes. And I think it's amazing how the dubstep fans are much more clued up in terms of how the system actually operates. You know what I mean? And they want to. By and large, they really want to protect the music of the producers that they love, and they do completely subscribe to an anti-piracy policy, and I think that's really important.